Welcome back to another issue of Stand on Guard. Thanks for your patience this morning. We had a few camera problems, but we're back. When we come back, I want to talk about Trudeau's tantrum yesterday and what it really means. Plus, what was Elon Musk and Donald Trump talking about last night? So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist. Yeah, we're just going to linger here until we get the audience up. Thank you. Thanks for joining me. It's Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. So much going on in the world today, so much going on in Canada, despite this being the summer. I hope you're enjoying your August, by the way. It's the sort of the last month, the real whole month of summer, and it's my favorite time of the year, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. And if you saw that little intro, please like the station and tell your family and friends about the station. Share it. It's very important you do that because it helps me continue to keep the station going because I am under tremendous YouTube suppression. I see people out there getting like 50,000 hits when they just play a clip. And when I have interviews with people who have got really significant things to say, YouTube just shuts the door on that. And that to me is evidence that I'm doing something right. Because when you offend YouTube, when you get YouTube angry at you and they try to demonetize you like they're always trying to do to me, you know you're doing something right and you're fighting the good fight. And that's what I'm here for. And I'm fighting the good fight. I hope you also have a chance to read material I'm doing right now for the Post Millennial. I've recently started doing American articles for that publication. It's new media. It's good media. And it's forceful media in terms of telling the truth, putting the facts out there and letting people decide. That is what is lacking in governments around the world right now, from the Biden government in the States, from the Trudeau government here in Canada, from the Starmer government, Sir Keir Starmer in Great Britain. These people hate free speech. They want to shut people up. Now, I want to get to this bizarre, shall we say, news conference yesterday at a car plant in Napan, Ontario. And it's really strange because it illustrates, and we'll get to the interview in a minute, but this is Justin Trudeau once again defending billions of dollars he spent attracting electric vehicle industry to Canada. This is going to be a graveyard industry. And what do I mean by that? That billions spent will be billions wasted. These cars are going to be of absolutely no value and no purpose. And I'll tell you why. And I've said this repeatedly in the past. I mean, we've got this, as one of our commenters pointed out. Let me go to that because I just loved it. Where is it here? Sorry, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on for this. This is wonderful. Disco Steve won't let Justin Trudeau put tariffs on EV because he works for China. This is Daddy Dave 7747 at 8:02 this morning. Exactly. You remember that commercial that Disco Steve put out? And of course, yeah, I'm the one who started that rumor that Stephen Gilboa was an extra in Saturday Night Fever. It could be, as Donald Trump likes to say, what about that? Yeah, what about that? I think it could be. But Disco Steve actually put an ad out. I haven't got it handy, unfortunately. He put an ad out, and that's all you can call it. It's like an unpaid liberal government ad for electric vehicles. And there's Steve showing you how you recharge them, getting in the driver's seat, turning it on, say, this is just so cool. It's so cool until your car won't start. And then when it's 40, mine is 40 in Edmonton or Calgary or God knows, Northern Ontario. when it gets that cold, your electric vehicle ain't going to start. And it's hard to recharge them. I mean, that's just the basics. We all know that it's next to impossible to find a recharging station. Yeah, they seem to be cropping up around banks a lot. So if you can find a bank with a recharging station, yeah, I think though the more people who drive these damn things, the harder it's going to be to find a place, because there's just no interest in doing this. But the real problem with electric vehicles is not just the lack of recharging stations. And I don't think these are going to be built overnight. It's the fact that the batteries wear out so fast. You think your battery in your cell phone wears out fast, and they do. I mean, when this is why it's almost stupid to buy a cell phone. You might as well lease it, because it's going to be worthless in 2 years anyway. The battery will be worthless. And besides that, your phone will be obsolescent. But the point here is that the batteries not only need to be replaced with rapidity, it's increasingly difficult to get the materials to make these batteries. And I've said this before, and I think it's important to keep saying it. How do we get the materials like bauxite and whatnot for these phones? We get them from Africa largely, and child labor. And we're getting it from China, who uses child labor in Africa to extract these minerals from the earth. It's brutal work. We used to hear stories about kids in the coal mines during the Industrial Revolution, and this horrible work that they were subjected to, these horrible working conditions. And we just said, oh, that was just awful. And it was. And children should never have to be subjected to that at 12 years of age and younger. But that's exactly what's happening. Communist China puts these kids to work digging up these minerals for electric car batteries. It is appalling. It is appalling. But that's exactly what we're up against in terms of the hypocrisy of a communist country that used to rail against the excesses of capitalism and the horrible working conditions induced by capitalism. They are doing that. And of course, Canada stands mutely by, ignoring it, saying, well, we need the materials. There's not enough of it being extracted as well. So there's a backlog of these batteries that need to be replaced. It is a nightmare. And for Trudeau to be investing, I hate that word, spending billions of dollars of your cash, attracting these plants to Canada so nobody will buy their cars. These are going to be industrial graveyards. Now, let's have a look at this clip here, because this is absolutely this is absolutely classic. But it identifies for me how, and watch Doug Ford here. Watch Doug Ford. But this is Justin Trudeau at his worst, at his petulant worst, having a tantrum because the reporter says, what about these tariffs on Chinese EVs? Does Justin Trudeau ever answer the question about why that would be a bad idea? No, he goes on a rant about Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. Let's listen to this.
For the Prime Minister. Last week, steel and aluminum CEOs and opposition leader Pierre Poilievre called for the federal government to match the U.S.'s tariffs on China. Why has Canada not moved on this yet?
Well, first of all, it's a bit of a joke that Poilievre is suddenly talking about workers in the auto industry. He has said repeatedly that he wouldn't be making these investments in our auto industry.
Excuse me, investments? No, he wouldn't be spending taxpayer money bringing these worthless cars to Canada. That's what he's saying. But he doesn't even answer the question. Now, this is an ad hominem attack on Pierre Poilievre. That's all this is about.
He wouldn't have invested. He'd be cutting our investments in EVs.
Keep saying investment. Somebody might believe it, Justin. There's no investment here. This is called waste, taxpayer waste.
In building an extraordinary EV supply chain in Canada, something that we've been doing as a government in partnership with the government of Ontario and others right across the country over the past 4 years in a deliberate strategy. Bring in Volkswagen, bring in Stellantis, invest in Honda, invest in the EV supply chain from mines to manufacturing and recycling.
Did you hear what he just said there? From mines, that's the child labor. So, and notice he keeps repeating invest, 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 because you say it enough, somebody is going to buy it. Somebody's going to accept that this really is an investment and not a waste of your money. And keep your eyes on Doug Ford here. Now, here's the so-called conservative premier, progressive conservative, that oxymoron. There he is in the background, standing with Trudeau as he has so many times. He stood with Trudeau during the Emergencies Act. He was one of the few premiers who steadfastly and stalwartly defended Justin Trudeau's invocation of the Emergencies Act. He just loved it. And there he is standing with Justin Trudeau again. However, even Doug Ford realizes, as a faux conservative, that he shouldn't stand too close to Justin Trudeau because Justin Trudeau is on his way to perdition. He's going into that pit of political disaster. So he gets too close to Justin Trudeau, it might rub off on him. So he's standing just a little behind Justin Trudeau and almost allowing Justin Trudeau to block him. But look at the face. Look at Doug Ford's face here. It's that usual tabula rasa of that blank expression of, I don't want to look too happy about this, but I don't want to look too upset either, because God knows I have no principles. I'm just here to be elected again. And if Justin Trudeau helps me to get elected, that's good. If Justin Trudeau hurts me from being elected again, that's bad. So somehow I have to look like I really don't have any opinion on this. I just have a blank expression on my face. And he nods at one point just to sort of say, hey, yeah, I'm with you, Justin. How about the rest of you in Ontario? So let's continue. This is a classic moment here.
We have been there every step of the way, and the federal Conservatives continue to say they'd cut it all. They don't support it. They don't believe in investing in Canadian workers. So him to suddenly turn around and say, oh, we're worried about EVs, that's baloney. He's looking for a political angle because that's all he does. But in regards to the CEOs and the steel manufacturers and partners in the industry, I can tell you, for the past many months, we, alongside Minister Mary Ng, our Minister of Trade, have been working with...
You see, you got a little bit of a nod there from Doug Ford. Yeah, I'm here, Justin. I'm with you, sort of. Maybe not entire. Maybe I'm just here in spirit, because he doesn't really look like he's there entirely, does he? And that's because he doesn't know what to do. So Trudeau says this is all baloney, that Pierre Poilievre doesn't believe in electric vehicles. I don't think he does. I don't think he wants to spend billions of your tax dollars, propping up these absolutely useless ideas of Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau has never had a good economic idea in his head in his life. Never will. He's incapable of doing that. That is way beyond his intellectual capacity. But he will try to convince you anyway. He does have a few good ideas left, but he has none. And so here he is, not answering the question. Why is it a bad idea to put tariffs on Chinese EVs if he's trying to support Canadian industry? But no, this is all about Pierre Poilievre hasn't backed our so-called investment in EVs.
Stakeholders, working with community groups, working with international partners on making sure that Canada's EV advantage remains. Canadians have invested in this future, and we're going to make sure that we follow through on it. So Poilievre jumping in front of the parade, or trying to, is just silly.
Poilievre is trying to say there is no parade. There's no parade here, Justin. That's what you're missing. Canada is not in the lead on anything. We're not in the lead on EVs. We're in the lead on bankrupting this country. That's the only thing you're in the lead of. And Poilievre is not trying to steal your thunder and say, hey, let's spend another billion attracting this industry to Canada. He's saying, why are we not putting tariffs on Chinese vehicles? That is the question Justin Trudeau will not answer here.
We have stood up for Canadian workers in the auto sector. We will continue to stand up for Canadian workers in the auto sector. We will continue to make sure that we're using all necessary tools to drive a greener, cleaner economy, which means great manufacturing jobs here in Canada, more opportunities for Canadians. This is a conversation that we've been having for months, and we will continue to have to make sure these investments we're making that Poilievre would cut are well protected for the future.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That can.
Yeah, and look at that. There's the that says it all. Justin with his mouth hanging open. He's about to repeat that answer in French. I don't know. I didn't watch the French response. I don't know if he puts the same amount of insincerity into that as he put into the English response. But there's Doug Ford, of course, staring ahead blankly again, not knowing what his face should reveal. And it's absolutely destructive. It's absolutely destructive. But that is what our democracy has come down to, hasn't it? And Justin Trudeau never even getting around to answering that question. I don't even know if he realized there was a question about tariffs there, because it just gave him an opportunity to rant and rave about how evil Pierre Poilievre is and how evil the Conservatives are for not wanting to spend your tax dollars on his so-called investments. I know all of you viewers out there are as sick as I am of hearing about government investments. And here's another news item I just find absolutely fascinating, because where have you seen this one before? New Human Rights Commissioner resigns before starting role. How many times? And this is Burju Datani, who of course was under fire from day one in his job because of statements he made on social media about Israel that apparently they're saying anti-Israel. I don't know if they can be defined or characterized as anti-Semitic, but he's in incredible trouble again, and finally admits, okay, I can't stay. We're going to have to move on. This has happened so many times in this Trudeau government. They hire somebody for a human rights position that has a record that, as long as their arm, of violating somebody else's human rights. Why do we even need a human rights commissioner? Of course we don't. Because believe me, they're not concerned with your human rights. They're concerned with the special few in this country that still have something called human rights. And that's all this is about. So if you think for a minute, how many times has Justin Trudeau put his foot in his mouth, hired people with incredibly spotty records on human rights and put them in human rights positions? Happens all the time in this government. But this is a government that just doesn't care. And that is probably the one thing about Justin Trudeau that has characterized his 9 years. Well, God help us, 8 years. Was it 15? No, 9 years now as Prime Minister. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. And that rant and rave in Napan, it was a mixture. I was just on my friend Mark Petron's radio station this morning talking about this. And Mark described this as a mixture of fear and anger. You can see the fear in Justin Trudeau there, that he's afraid he's going down. He's going down to defeat in the next election, if there is a next election, but he could be removed sooner than that by a very angry caucus. And believe me, the Liberal caucus might not be as angry as you or I about how incompetent Justin Trudeau is. It's not that he's just a poor leader. And I thank my good listeners and viewers for pointing this out to me the other day. It's not just that Justin Trudeau exhibits poor leadership. It's that he exhibits no leadership. He has no capacity to lead. That is what defines Justin Trudeau. So I think that is really what. But what I think, I said to Mark, what you're missing here, Mark, is it's not just fear. It's not just anger. It's complete insincerity. He doesn't believe a word he's saying about being out there fighting for this, being with it, rolling my shirt sleeves up. All he does is just tack together the same pat phrases he's been using for his whole political career and hope somebody actually believes it. Nobody's believing this anymore. Want to get to some really good news, though. And this, I hope all of you had a chance to watch the interview with Elon Musk and Donald Trump. It was on last night on X, and it's going to be, I think, rebroadcast all over the place today. There's probably going to be 1 billion people around the world watch this interview, and perhaps more. It's already going through the stratosphere. And this is because people are sick to death of these small-minded, incompetent little pipsqueaks like Justin Trudeau and Keir Starmer and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris taking our rights away, taking our free speech away. And they want somebody like Elon Musk. I know he has his faults. I know he's not perfect. I know he's sometimes not done the right thing. But in buying X, he did the right thing. And he's made that the freest social media platform out there. And for him to endorse Donald Trump is significant. It's highly significant. And for the interview last night, I think the best part that came out of this, Elon Musk volunteered to serve on a government efficiency committee to rein in wasteful spending if Trump is elected. That alone is a good reason for Donald Trump to be elected. It's incredibly important. Now, why is that important? Because finally somebody's saying, we've got to keep an eye. We've got to register how these bureaucrats are spending your money. So on Canada, we've got Justin Trudeau spending billions of dollars on so-called investments that his friends are benefiting from. We have Elon Musk saying we've got to rein in this government spending because it is absolutely ludicrous. We don't even know why it's being spent half the time on infrastructure projects that are not infrastructure projects. That's been the experience in the United States. It is absolutely insane. And of course, they want to keep it that way. But that, to me, was the most significant part of this interview, is Elon Musk even talking about an efficiency committee. Because believe me, what's happening in the United States right now, the mainstream media wants Kamala Harris to win desperately. They want a continuation of the Biden-Harris regime. They want this to happen. This is why Kamala Harris, who was the most unpopular vice president in history, is now being presented as an economic genius. Yet she appears to be an extra from that movie Clueless, if you recall that. She would have been just perfectly at home in that milieu. This is somebody who couldn't put a sentence together, who said, well, yeah, let's talk about inflation. I know what inflation is. It's when you go to the store and the price of butter is higher than it was last week. It's when you go to the gas station and the price of gas is higher than it was a week ago. Yeah, she really understands inflation, but she had no conception about what to do about it. Maybe it had something to do with the trillions of dollars the Biden administration flooded the economy with, spending money on their friends. Maybe that fueled inflation. Maybe Kamala Harris was part of that problem. Maybe she fueled inflation. But no, now suddenly, let's be honest about it. There's inflation out there. That's her answer to inflation, is to recognize it exists. That's how insane this is. So my God, I know Americans are going to see through this charade, this mirage that the mainstream media is creating, that Kamala Harris somehow has something to offer. She has nothing to offer except word salads, nothing to offer except the same silly phrases that she repeats endlessly every time she has an opportunity. Is she attracting huge crowds? I don't believe it. No, I don't believe it for a minute. I think it's completely manufactured. I think it's artificial intelligence doing this. I think this is about creating a false narrative so people will actually consider voting and creating more disaster. This is all about the globalists taking over. That's why the UK is going towards civil war. That's why Canada is disintegrating under Justin Trudeau. And that's why the United States let in up to 40 million illegals under Joe Biden. It's about disintegrating national borders, about disintegrating national economies, about destroying nations. so the globalists can pick up the pieces and say, we're in charge. We can restore order. We can save the situation for you. It's all up to us. That's where we are today. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for watching today. Let's keep those numbers climbing. I'm going to be back again every day this week talking about the issues that matter to you. And by the way, I'm going to have Kamal El-Sheikh on the show either on Friday or on the weekend to discuss the next million-person march that's going to take place in Ottawa and across the country to fight gender ideology in the schools. Thank God some people are focused on the right things and aren't being played by the globalists to focus on things that we can't change. What we can change is domestic policies, and I'm going to be talking about that later in the week. Thank you for watching today. God bless you all. This station thanks you, and I thank you. And we'll be back again soon.